Anyone can follow. It takes something special to be an original, which is why the 2025 Lincoln Navigator SUV arrives with new ways of surrounding you in luxury, including the ultra-wide 48-inch panoramic display and the multi-sensory Lincoln Rejuvenate experience. A true original never stops evolving. So meet the 2025 Navigator, the original that's all new and better than ever. Learn more at Lincoln.com. Lincoln and Navigator are trademarks of Ford or its affiliates.
This episode is brought to you by Nespresso and Samra Origins by the Weekend Coffee Collection.
Introducing Samra Origins. My collaboration with Nespresso is a connection to my roots, to my mother, Samra. Coffee that hits the right notes. It transports you. Crafted with unique notes and bold, soaring flavors. Experience a taste that moves you. Nespresso and Samra Origins.
Discover more at Nespresso.com.
For a limited time at McDonald's, get a Big Mac Extra Value Meal for $8. That means 2 all-beef patties, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions on a sesame seed bun, and medium fries, and a drink. We may need to change that jingle.
Prices and participation may vary.
Ireland have lost their world number 1 ranking status and South Africa have reclaimed it. Was it rightly theirs? That's what we're going to be discussing in this week's pod.
You're listening to United Rugby Rewind.
This is the URC podcast where we discuss only the URC nations during this test window. That means that we will not be discussing England's humiliating defeat at the hands of the Wallabies, but merely focusing on Ireland, South Africa, Scotland, Wales, and Italy. I am joined by the usual crew of Caelan and Ben. How are we, gents?
Good to see you.
We're both coming out. We're all coming off the back of losses, but I think we're all in a very good mood on a Monday.
Chipper.
There's something very strange about this. Like, I don't know what it is. Maybe we miss having Alan here to say how great the South Africans are. Maybe that's what we miss. Alan, we miss you as well. But you know,
yes, sadly, the only member of our pod who registered a win this week is Alan, and he is sadly unavailable. We will be hearing from him briefly at some point in the pod, but not yet. The thing that we've got to start with is, for the YouTube viewers, you'll notice that one of us is wearing a special jersey, and for a change, it's not me. Ben, you are wearing the only just recently released British and Irish Lions jersey from Canterbury.
Yes.
We have to address it. It's caused a bit of controversy. We'll let you go first because you've actually touched and felt it and worn it.
I want to ask a question before we begin. Ben, have you disclosed how much this jersey costs to anyone at the time of buying? Because it's the one thing that puts a lot of people off buying jerseys. They are dear.
So, no. But it was £82.50.
That's not bad, actually.
Yeah.
That's decent.
It's cheaper than an England jersey.
It is cheaper than England jersey. I think it has kind of sparked a bit of a kind of conversation, to be diplomatic, about the shirt. I actually quite like it. I think it's darker than the 2021 version, the Vodafone one. That was more like a tanga red. This feels like more like a kind of a blood red, if that's the right word. And
it's too dark for me.
It is quite dark. It's definitely darker than what I expected, but I do quite like it, and I think it's a really nice fit around the neck. There is this sort of odd thing with the collar here where it kind of like drives down diagonally. I don't know if you kind of see it on the screen, but I got it on Saturday morning. It came, so I looked at it. I was like, "Oh, it doesn't look right." But then I was in Edinburgh yesterday for the Scotland-South Africa game, and I walked into Rugby Stuff, which is a really good online store, as well as Shop Down Haymarket in Edinburgh on the way to Murrayfield. And I went in and looked at 3 or 4 of the same shirts, and they all have this like design thing here. So it isn't the floor; it just must have been designed like that. Maybe just the way the collar works. I like that they've got sort of in the stitching. They've got all 4 kind of emblems of the
like textured?
Nation. Yeah, it's textured. It's like we talked about our Grand's curtains.
Yeah. or the couch.
It does have, or the couch. Yeah, it does have that kind of feel, but I don't know. I think it does go through the white trim on the sleeves as well, so it's consistent, I think. And I do like it. I'm not so sure about the sponsor. It's not as bad as the Arnold Park on the Scotland top, but
I have to say that it's not well integrated. It's not well integrated at all.
I don't even know. I never heard of Howden. If that's even how you pronounce it until
I thought it was the kitchen fitters. It's not. It's
that's Howden's.
Yeah, That's why I got them confused. Because I was like,
no
oh,
one.
interesting. Kitchen Fitter sponsoring the Lions.
What
But
is
no,
it
it's
about
an
rugby
insurance.
though? Or like, what is it about rugby and getting like corporates? Like we obviously have like Sage for the Six Nations. It used to be HSBC for the Lions. Now it's an insurance company. We've had Zurich
I think
involved
you might
Standard, it was
find
before.
Standard
that
Chartered as well, wasn't it? In
Yeah,
the
Standard Chartered.
in the New
Rugby
Zealand
loves
tour.
corporate.
I think you might find that there's an overlap in the people
No,
of
that can't be it.
in big finance and rugby. You might find that a lot of people who used to play rugby are now in big
Is that why the
corporations,
atmosphere
etc.,
is so
etc.
bad then? Is
You
that
you
it?
might find that a lot of the people who work in these corporations will tell you, I was a good rugby player in my youth, but then I did my knee, and now I just had to fall back on my backup plan, which was to be the CEO, nepo baby of this huge corporation. Yeah,
If
genuinely, someone pointed out to me, look how many rugby competitions have their logos is blue on a white background or white on a blue background, because that's what a lot of banks have, because that's considered safe and reliable branding.
Corporate. Yeah.
Yeah.
again, bring back the old Heineken Cup, bring back the old Heineken Cup logo, the old H Cup in France. Back when the game was a proper game, before the game was gone. And if we weren't recording and we were just three lads having a chat, I would fully go full Ross O'Carroll Kelly books on the full like D4 dad vibe about rugby. But no, I do not want to get sued.
Just
So
lastly on the Lions jersey, I can't believe that it's not stitched in badges.
That's the big issue for me. There's two things I've noticed. That it's a more generous fit. This is a medium. I'm 6'2", and the one from 21 was actually quite tight. It was more like a body fit, but there was only one size that was sold. This one's a bit more generous, but yeah, I think not stitching the logo on, it just means that if you want to keep it, which I like doing with Lions tops, because there is only one every 4 years, right? Is that with the stickers, they do eventually fade. It's just inevitable, like it happens with any shirt where it's embossed as opposed to stitched. And I think, you're never going to lose that logo that's stitched onto yours here. And I think it's a bit of a it's the only major criticism of the shirt is it's not stitched, because I like that.
I did a load of research into jerseys, and we could go on a huge tangent about rugby jerseys and spend a whole hour talking about that. But Lee says we're not allowed, so we're going to have to crack on and talk about rugby.
I'll give it an 8 out of 10. I'll give
That's
it an 8.
generous. I'd be
I think it looks
5 or
nice.
6.
I think it looks nice from this angle, but I would not like the texture design on a jersey I wear. So it's a bit of like
I
like
like
it
that
on
they
someone
tried
else.
something. I like that they tried to be. They actually sat around a table and went, "What can we do different?" Rather
Did
than
they?
last time, or was it 2017, where it was just
2017 was 2013, but shorter
red?
sleeves
Yeah,
stripes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the sleeves were short on the
yeah.
But
2017 one. Yeah.
but Adidas Lions kit 2013, 2009 to
Ah,
2017. I know it's the same kit,
peak.
but it's so nice. It
Yeah,
was just so
got
nice. And like I know it didn't have a collar. Some people love collars, and it wasn't like the red that like Hugh was wearing again for our YouTube audience, but it was a good jersey. It was a
Yeah,
really good jersey.
yeah. I'm wearing my Tonga jersey because I'm tired of the Tonga revisionism, Tonga deletion from history. That all the Southern Hemisphere fans claiming they had a clean sweep this weekend, but they didn't. Tonga lost to Romania, and Uruguay lost to Spain.
Yeah, but
So
they're not covered in
actually,
our insurance, so we can't talk about them. They're not URC teams.
all right, okay, right. Talking about the games then. We've been going for long enough. Ben, you were actually physically in person in Murrayfield. I mean, firstly,
Yes.
just tell us about your day out in Murrayfield. A good place to go for a
It's
rugby match.
it's it's fantastic. It's probably that's the sixth I think international I've been to over the last sort of 8 9 years. It never fails to disappoint. It's just a chasm of Scottishness. I think if that for that's probably the best way to describe
Is the
it.
bagpiper just locked on the roof? Can they
I
get
think
down?
yeah, I think they've got their own sort of bed and like camp, yeah, set up there, and then sort of Portaloo maybe further behind just in case there's a bit of a rush. Um, yeah, it's just one of those days. Even the walk from Waverley to Murrayfield is about a mile and a half. It's a good 40 to 45 minute walk in foot traffic, but you can just feel the atmosphere building around it. It's just everyone's excited. There was obviously a lot of South African fans there, and I was sat surrounded by Sappers and 5 French people that were sat in front of me as
I
well, and
saw
that
there
was
was
quite
loads
interesting.
of South Africans there.
And you could hear like when South Africa was sort of turning the screw in that last 10, 15 minutes yesterday, those were the fans that were shouting the loudest. That was the the songs, the chants were coming from the Springbok contingent there. I guess maybe a third of the fans there were Springboks. I'd say maybe. I think they like coming up to Edinburgh. I think there's a lot of maybe some kinship between South Africa and Scotland based on the amount of rugby players that are now playing for Scotland that have got a South
I heard
African
that
ancestry.
I don't know
Uh,
whether it's true. I saw that Pierre Schumann's family was screaming in Afrikaans for Scotland.
Yeah, that would probably be true. I mean, yeah, it's bizarre, but it's just the way that we allow that sort of residency, isn't it? But it was a fantastic day out. I go with my mum. It's kind of a bit of a tradition. We've been sort of three out the last 4 years, save the World Cup last year. It's the fourth game we've been to. She's in her mid-70s. She gets as excited as I do about it. She loves the day out. She really enjoyed it. Um, and yeah, I love Edinburgh. It's my favorite city. It's the closest city that I've, to the town I grew up in when I was growing up. So yeah, it's just it holds a lot of fond memories from childhood for me, and the
Mm.
rugby kind of epitomizes that. I love going there. I love walking down Princes Street, Rose Street, George Street, going down towards Haymarket. It's just a lovely walk into Murrayfield, and the stadium itself, when it just appears round down the back of Roseburn, behind the primary school, it's just a fantastic site, and I'll never tire of going there. And it's something that I try and do as much as I can, which is difficult when you're living in London. It's not the easiest journey to make, but it was certainly worthwhile. Despite the result, it was still, a fantastic day, and it was a great game to watch as well for the neutral, I think.
Yeah, my prediction for this game was Scotland will play some lovely stuff, and South Africa will kind of be hanging on in there. And then we'll look at the scoreline and see that Scotland lost by two. At the end of the day, you lost by, what was it, 15,
17,
17?
17.
4 tries to 0. That's not my memory of the game.
Not mine either. I think South Africa were just very precise and executed. Willie LaRue and Mapimpi, they were on a bit of string yesterday with the kicking and him picking up in the corner and dotting down. Scotland had 35, 40 minutes of solid play where they should have come away with at least two or three tries. But for the last pass missing Hugh Jones, uncharacteristic of him not hitting the mark, passing out to the wing.
He
Um,
did that a few
I
times, didn't he? That was really strange. Like he's really good at that catch pass in traffic, and we've seen one under the legs, which is like you'd almost trade them if he's stuck those two passes. Because there's one moment where it's Duhan's probably not going to score. I know
Mhm.
he's Duhan, but it's like you stick that pass, he's getting to the 22 at least. Like
Yeah,
he had a clear run, sails over his head. Like the man's 6'2", and it's like
yeah.
that summed up Scotland's evening in some ways. Whereas like so close, but just not quite.
And there was another one where Gilchrist was unfortunate at the back of the ruck with ball in hand, and he's probably of the 15 players, he's probably the one that's not is probably the weakest passer, and he's passed to Matt Fagerson. It's come so short of him that Fagerson's trying to pick it up on his at the bottom at his ankles, and he spills it. And that was that sort of 10, 15 minutes of the second half where we only came away with 6 points, I think, and those were two, penalties from the boot of Finn Russell, and there was a try there. Evan Etzebeth was incredible yesterday.
He
Uh,
was. I think it's his best game he's played all
his,
year.
his try saving tackle, it was a try saving tackle yesterday on Duhan was just incredible. That his long arms, no one else is going to reach Duhan at that point, but Etzebeth has got arms like an albatross's wings, and he just reaches out and kind of grabs the shirt and then wraps and pulls him down, and it's again just
Yeah.
stymied the play. But there was 4 or 5 occasions yesterday where we were looking good in the 22, and they just didn't convert. And unfortunately, I do worry that when Darcy Graham's not fit on that wing, then we don't have another winger that's good enough. Because Kinghorn went out there yesterday,
Hmm.
pretty ineffective. Kinghorn is a fullback; he should be playing at fullback, but because of the situation, Tom Jordan cannot play on the wing. There wasn't really another winger available of the standard. Jamie Dobie could play there, but he's clearly there as a 9 yesterday. Tom Jordan was absolutely fantastic. His carries, his tackles, um, his Jacqueline, his passing, everything was brilliant. But I do worry that if Kinghorn's not at 15 and Graham was at 14, I think we come away with a few more tries yesterday. I just don't think Kinghorn was dominant enough in that position up against Mapimpi. Whereas on the other side, I think we are far stronger. So yeah, I think that's the disappointment is that, yeah, and I can see you've got the stats up now, 6 22-meter entries. So not many,
And zero
not
tries.
0 tries. Um,
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, I think you have to credit South Africa's defense for that, though, who was
yeah,
phenomenal. The only team not to concede a try this weekend. Pretty phenomenal a defensive effort. And I think, all the chat about the 7-1 split, that's what they got from that. A lot of people think that the
yeah,
7-1 is all about offensive, but I think in that period of the game where Scotland were on top, they just had the more energy for the defense and they stayed on top that way. I do think it works for them. And I thought it was interesting. The team that South Africa selected, they, I Razzie said this thing in Chasing the Sun too. He said that teams can't prepare for South Africa because you don't know what team we're going to select and you don't know what game plan we're going to use. And I think that it was interesting that they chose that game plan to go up against Scotland, where it was what's our point of difference against Scotland? Can we match them in the backs? Maybe, arguably. Well, yeah, I think a lot of South Africans would say, yeah, we could, but our biggest advantage would be to physicality and to go to
It was
7-1.
the front row. It was the front row that swung it yesterday when they bought six. The Statement came on at half time. The remaining six came on at 48 minutes. And then Grant Williams came on for Hendricks probably 65, 70 minutes in. But you could see the momentum shift away from Scotland sort of 65, 66 minutes in yesterday. We had that 20 minutes of, unmitigated pressure where South Africa didn't get out there 22 at all. But then it just swung and it was, that power.
Yeah.
And we did concede, I think, 2 or 3 scrum penalties in the last 10, 15 minutes.
Got shoved over.
Yeah. And then South Africa scored, Pollard went kick to take it 25-15. It's kind of out of sight then. And then, of course, you get a try very, very late on, sort of dead zone time really at that point. And
yeah, put a bit of gloss on the scoreline for that for me. For YouTube viewers, this is the Willie le Roux assist for Mapimpi. Lovely try. Just Willie le Roux is the best in the world at that for me at the moment. Yeah. The kick pass, no one's doing it better than him.
He doesn't seem to age at the moment. He's so. I just think every year goes by, you think he's going to retire, and he's still.
He's a bit like that number 9 who always used to be about his pace and then doesn't have the pace anymore. This is a football reference, by the way. So has made it about their hold-up play and like nodding it on and things. Obviously, that's not a perfect analogy, but he has changed his game with age, and I do rate that. I'm just trying to see if I can find the scrum try. Caleb, have you seen much of this game? What was your take on it?
I seen bits of it. I was trying to kind of get content done yesterday. It's a weird one because obviously with South Africa, they can be as porous as you like in defense for 80 minutes of the field. But once you cross into that 22, it is so difficult to score against them. And so much gets said about the jackeling of our defense. But it's almost more South Africa, or not South African, it's almost more New Zealand. And I know that we have South African listeners, they might find that insulting or whatever. But the way you hear New Zealand, it's like, oh, bend, don't break. They don't care conceding line breaks, just don't concede. South Africa have a little bit of that about them. Once you cross that 22, you are going to have to literally put someone on their sword to get over them. And I think that's where, especially at the end of that game, yes, you just see the power difference. Scotland are bringing on, yes, Jamie Ritchie's a good player. Elliot Miller-Mills and Rory Sutherland were the 2 sub props. And look, they're all good players, but it's like that power difference did kind of tell as the game went on. The 7-1 split took a while to get into it, but ultimately Scotland are not a team who are going to be able to go up the jumper and find a score. They're just going to need to cut them open. They nearly did a few times. They had to try disallowed. We mentioned there's a couple of chances there, but ultimately Scotland are just not designed to beat South Africa on a, especially like what was it, 22-15. Scotland are attacking. They have a chance in that game, but it just didn't look like they were going to score, like they were going to be able to break down that barrier.
I felt like players like Tuipulotu and Tom Jordan were trying to work miracles all the time, and Hugh Jones as well. And to be fair, they could turn around and say like that's what it was going to take. He was going to take the best try you've ever seen to score past South Africa, but it did lead to a lot of mistakes. I'm surprised
that feels
Scotland...
like the wrong takeaway from last year in Marseille, where they almost scored a brilliant first phase try. They didn't execute. If their takeaway from that was that's how we bring them down, it's like no, it is execution. It's still execution is key. Like
I'm surprised Scotland made more tackles than South Africa in this game. Again, that's just not my memory of this game. I've got all of the numbers are different to what it felt like to watch.
It was, I think the stats of the game play was, it's odd, isn't it? But they seem to be counter-intuitive than actually, an accurate portrayal of the game. I think, basically, just adding to what Caelan said, there was many nearly moments of Scotland yesterday, but there was never enough. I think the try that was disallowed, I know there's been a little bit of conversation about did he go back too many phases. I don't know if that's a new rule or the rules changed or what the current situation is with that. But my understanding is that you don't go back more than 2 phases before the try is scored. Whether I've got that wrong and that's sort of false news, or whether that is a new rule, or whether the rules change and that was the old rule, I don't know. But
It has been changed. I don't think the two phase law has been changed. I think the only thing they did change was you can take the conversion. Doesn't like
I
we can
knew
still
that.
go back.
Yeah.
I'm not sure about the two phase if that has changed. I don't think it has though.
I knew about that. I think that frustrates fans because they used to think conversion, yeah, that sealed the moment, as in like kick off after VAR in football. As soon as the game is restarted, it goes. But yeah, I think the TMOs have probably, with World Rugby have said, look, we probably need a little bit more time to go back far enough because players are rushing to that conversion because like, oh, hang on, yeah, I think there might have been something, in the build, a knock on or a neck roll, a croc roll, and you can obviously talk about a croc roll in particular yesterday that took place. It was
Yeah, that
caused
was
some
weird because it
controversy.
wasn't a croc roll. He didn't get sent off for a
No,
croc roll. He got
It is
sent off
what
for targeting a lower limb.
it's a weird one because look, the wording from officials and from World Rugby can always be vague. I asked the referee about this. Remember the Caelan Doris James Ryan one in the South Africa tour in the second test, first test? I don't know. That's all one. Second test, I think. I think it was in Durban. That is the picture they are looking at. Are you coming at them? Are you landing on their leg? Anything in and around there, they're going to be looking at a card. Was it communicated well? I don't think so. Was it communicated well from World Rugby in terms of what we class
No,
as a croc roll? I don't think so.
of all of the law changes that they brought out this autumn, the this whole thing about the lower limb has not been uh, kind of publicized well because I've spoken to someone else who's an official as well, and obviously Ben, you're into officiating, and apparently I've heard exactly the same as you, Kalen. They are being hot on this now. This is their new thing, but they brought out so much this autumn that that's gotten lost somehow in the
The other
general
side of it,
discourse.
as what always happens with rugby, is we get hot on one thing, we forget others. And I don't want to pick and choose different moments because we're going on to the Wales Fiji game later. So Cummings sees a 20-minute red card for this. I think that's fair. I don't agree with the 20-minute red card, but I think that's fair in this particular instance. You look at the red card in the Fiji Wales game. For me, that's a full red card. And that's where it's like, are they taking the eye off the ball? They're not supposed to. And I think it's just that rugby thing where we're going to throw so many changes in there. Sure, it'll be fine. And it's like, it's almost like an Irish thing at this stage. But it's like, we
the
throw
idiom
so
that
many
comes
changes, but they do.
The idiom that comes to mind for me
Yeah.
is
And
once
like,
everything's a priority, nothing's a priority. You need to,
yeah.
you're asking
Yeah.
people to do too much in 80 minutes of rugby. The only thing I'd say about that particular incident yesterday is that there did look as though Scott Cummings was kind of like pushed into Franco Mostert for that to happen, I think. And that was the thing that
That's the only
maybe
thing.
there should have been a bit, I think there could have been better context, is that Scott Cummings was going into to jackal or turn these clear out, but he has lost his footing because of a South African player that's come from the wrong side.
I
Obviously
actually
not from a
thought,
penalty perspective. But I just
yeah,
thought it was a bit harsh.
I thought
Ridley,
Darge was the one who would be binned, to be
They kind
honest.
of both
When I
did.
seen it
They both
first on
did.
the first replay, they're not going to do that though. Like,
Yeah.
there's that. But I thought it was Darge. But as someone then explained to me, if you watch it, it looks like Darge starts high, slips, but then the
rolls
same
off.
mitigation could be applied to Cummings, where he's kind of moving through like the impact of a ruck, the general impact of a ruck, as you said, where I think you said it was Mustard. It's probably one instance where you're like, okay, 20-minute red card, you probably could say is fine. I'm down it as much as I hate a 20-minute red card, and as much as I hate the like, oh well, you have to look at it this way. I hate them. I don't agree with them. In this instance, it was more than a yellow. Was it a red because there's so much mitigation? That's the angle World Rugby will take, whether we agree with it or not. They will see this as textbook. This is what the 20-minute red card is about.
There was no discussion of mitigation yesterday, which is what concerned me as well. It seemed to be a very quick conversation for quite a critical decision. I think there was no discussion about mitigation. It was like, yeah,
Well,
yellow,
it was on
straight
the
away,
background,
yellow.
I suppose. So
Yeah, at
That's
the
the
same
thing.
time, sometimes I do think they take the mickey with how long it takes TMOs to reach decisions. Sometimes you see a camera angle, like the first angle that you see, you're like, oh, that's what's happened. But sometimes they just stand and wait for like 5 camera angles, and then they'll watch the first one again, and it's like, well, we've all seen what's happened in the first one. Going on to just the final try of the game, Ben, is Scotland's depth in the front row a serious worry?
Yeah,
Because it feels
it is.
like that we all knew this was happening as soon as the subs were made.
Yeah. I do worry about. I think, yeah, second lock whether it's Gilchrist or Cummings, And then the front row, I think it's somewhere where we do lack depth. I think Schumann, very good on his side. Ewan Ashman, he's the only real sort of hooker that we can rely on at the moment. Rory Sutherland is kind of coming towards the swan song of his career. I think, Lions tour that he went on last time, he was obviously at his peak, I think, when he was playing then. But I don't think he's the same player that he once was when he went to Worcester with Doohan, and obviously he kind of like he was struggling to find a club for sort of a period of time, went to Ulster, went to France, then he's obviously now back in Scotland playing for Glasgow. So it's a bit of an odd one. I think there needs to be focus from the SRU at the academy level about who are the next big front rowers coming through, because Elliot Miller-Mills, Alec Hepburn's been called up because there's a couple of players about to drop out. Jack Dempsey's out.
Yeah, Alec Hepburn has struggled at the Scarlets for
Yeah.
scrummaging so far. It's got to be said. It's not been his strong suit.
Yeah. So I think, it's an entirely relevant question that you ask about the front row. I just think that it's the thing I've worried about for a little while. I think, Edinburgh's struggled domestically with the front row. Whether it's Cherry or Ashman. And I think Schumann's probably the only front row at the moment that I really rely on as being strong enough to go up against the other tier one nations. I think it's somewhere that I'd expect Australia to target in a couple of weeks' time, and I think Six Nations will be somewhere that we're going to be targeted as well, because it's not an easy place to play, at the best of times. But when you've got that weakness there, we got shoved back quite a few times that last 10, 15 minutes yesterday, and I'm not convinced by our depth. I just don't think it's there at the moment, which is a shame. Because I think it's probably one of the most exciting Scotland teams in a long time. But if we've not got strong front row at scrum time, whether it's an attacking scrum or a defensive scrum, how often are you going to get your backs into attacking phase rugby if your scrum is not reliable enough? And it does matter. Our lineup for his name, Ashman's lineup for him was actually quite good yesterday, because at domestic level it's been poor. It's been really poor. Dave Cherry's been poor. Johnny Matthews has been called up for next week, so I think he probably will start next Saturday against Portugal. I'd like to see him start. I think he needs the opportunity to see if he's a worthy first choice hooker or understudy to Ashman. I think he's been left out in the cold, and I don't know why. I think Townsend doesn't seem to like him, but I think he probably does have an opportunity next weekend playing a second tier nation. Not to do Portugal down, but there obviously is going to be some squad rotation next week.
Can I just jump in there before we move off Ashman? He is going to live off that tackle off Etzebeth for about 2 or 3 years. And honestly, good on you. What a hit. Now
he's hitting 6 meters into next week, isn't he? Yeah.
I've seen a few Scotland fans saying, well, it should have been a penalty afterwards. Yes, technically Eric Lowe comes in from the side.
I'd have seen that angle.
Yeah, that's a great one.
It should have been a Scotland penalty, because Darsh goes to clear out, and I think it's
Lowe comes in from the side.
Comes in and well in from the side. He's like 90
it's one of those that
stuff.
referees are like, did you impact it? And it's like, yeah, but it's so blatant. But they'll be like, well, you didn't impact anything, so it doesn't make a difference. But what a hit. On Etzebeth of all people. There it is.
Yeah, but it is kind of when the guy's that tall, you can get that kind of hit on them because it's easier to get to their hips, to get to their center of gravity and things. But yeah, great Hollywood moment. It's the only moment for Scotland that got shared on socials, unfortunately.
Yeah, I can see why. Yeah, because like you mentioned, Hugh Jones throwing it back of his legs, but it was actually a poor pass because it went behind Kinghorn, I think, off the top of my head. So it was taking it from here, so it looked good. For social, looked good, but in the terms of the attacking phase, it wasn't it wasn't the right pass.
Just because it went behind at the right time.
Yeah,
I felt Kinghorn was he was out of step. You can tell that he's not played much for Scotland lately, and he didn't seem to gel. There was a lack of cohesion with him and the rest.
He looked a bit forlorn, I think. Yeah,
I think it's just because he was trying to do so much, because he is such a talented player, as you rightly say, and they want to get the ball in his hands as much, but he just wasn't on the same page as his.
He was under pressure there as well, because it's Tom Jordan's first start at full back, and it's like, I'm sure there's a conversation, even if there's not a conversation, Blair Kinghorn's old enough to be like, you're expected to be that second part of the pendulum to help him, to support him. And Jordan had some angsty moments where he jumps up out of line a bit too quickly, or he's a little bit out of place, he's just doubting himself. It happens. That's why we rotate players. We'll get onto that with Ireland in a minute. But I do think Kinghorn was probably that little bit more reserved because of it. There's probably a case to be made that if Graham, if Rowe, if any of them is fit, they start in the wing, Kinghorn goes full back, and he probably just plays better by virtue of that.
But I think
I agree. Yeah.
I think Scotland's real problem position is 9. I couldn't tell you who Scotland's best 9 is at the moment. Ben White has not been playing for too long. Ali Price, we've spoken about plenty of times. Ben I mean, Ben, from your point of
There's a
view,
Lions chat to be had at 9 when the time comes, because I think it's very slim behind 1.
yeah, no, I agree. So, Ben, I mean, just quickly from you, what's the answer at scrum half for Scotland at the moment?
I think it has to be Ben White. I don't think there's anyone near him at the moment. I do rate him, but if he's not playing enough for too long, obviously that does have an impact because nines play on form. They play on minutes, don't they? You know, you expect that scrum half to play 65, 70 minutes, sometimes play the entire game. He was fairly good yesterday, but I do worry that obviously Jamie Dobie came on yesterday. Jamie Dobie has not been playing scrum half for Glasgow much this season. He's been playing out on the wing because George Horn's been first choice. I don't know why George Horn isn't getting a look in at the moment. Whether again that changes next weekend. Ali Price, I don't know. He goes from starting last weekend to not being in the match day 23 after Townsend says he's the best scrum half in Scotland on form at the moment. But that doesn't make sense because then you would keep him in the squad to play against the tier one nation. So it seems a bit contradictory and hypocritical for him to say that. But again, after that, like Ben Vellacott won't get a look in. Ben Vellacott's probably not international standard. He's good enough to be at Edinburgh. He's a good enough leader in the backs, but he's not Scotland standard, I don't think. Again, after that, where do we go? I think again the front row and 9 is the two positions where we had Greg Laidlaw for 10 years and he was outstandanding. You know, he was nothing flashy, but he was a very good kicker.
He went on a Lions tour.
Went on a Lions tour.
Yeah.
And he was, and you know, a lot of respect for him. He was, you know, great.
Ali Price has been on a Lions tour. I think Ali Price has got a Lions test.
He started the first two tests. Did he start the first two?
To be fair, he was playing well at the time. I'll give him that. But like a month can be a long time for a scrum half when they start to age out. It's one of those positions where you could go from hero to zero. He's not at that level. Don't get me wrong. He's ahead of that. But as we touched on at the start of the season, with his form with Edinburgh, it looked like he'd gone down a bit. He has picked back up, but it's a real anomaly position for for Scotland.
It makes you appreciate Conor Murray, doesn't it?
It really does. I will always appreciate Conor Murray. Are we doing the Conor Murray appreciation? Or I'll be right back with a jersey. No.
So just picking out some star performers for South Africa. Then obviously Thomas Tutoy got his try.
Great try.
South Africa's scrum.
Try.
I don't think South Africa's scrum, I think, was great. Obviously, Vincent Koch came off the bench. Gerard Steenkamp seems to be nailing down that squad spot. I thought that I think Elric Lowe is one of the best players in the world at the moment. I think he's one of the most underrated players. He was playing 7 for this game, obviously with Khaleesi coming off the bench, but I can't remember seeing Elric Lowe having a bad game in the last 12 months, to be honest. Spoke about Ed Sebeth.
Super in the URC semi-final, if you remember. So good that day.
He was my URC player of the year. I would have picked him. He got officially forward of the year. I thought he was the best player, full stop. Mapimpi 2 tries. Kanan Moody is now 12 from 12 for the Springboks, and that is not a stat padded record either. He has played like the All Blacks 2 or 3 times in that run. And anybody else that I need to mention? Grant Williams.
Willie LaRue.
Willie LaRue. We kind of talked about Willie LaRue. I think Grant Williams is South Africa's best 9, personally, my own personal opinion. But he seems to be working off the bench for whatever reason. So
I thought Pollard did well at 10. I should say. Like I know it's so easy. Like Pollard plays off ball. Like he will kick him behind, and he tested Scotland with some of his kicks. Some of them aren't great. Some of them were really nice. But yes, he doesn't get the backline going as well as say Sasha or Manny. But he's a very good 10. Even on a day like this where I don't think either 10 played their best stuff. He was solid. And I think that makes a difference for South Africa, because we did see last year with Manny, there was just moments where it's like, just dial it back, come back to earth the small bit and just play your game.
I'd love to see Manny against England. I'm desperate to see Manny against England.
No, you're desperate to see Manny play well against England and see what will be said about him. That's an entirely different story.
Anyway, All Blacks versus Ireland. We all picked. You weren't here at the time, Kayla. I think you dropped off. Everyone on the pod said that we didn't see the All Blacks.
I said Ireland as well before I dropped off.
But we all thought it would be comfortable, especially because of the players that they had unavailable, Bowden Barrett dropping out. Was it just a bad day at the office?
No. And this is the thing. This is my second podcast. I've actually been very lucky. I've only had to do 2 podcasts in the earning game because I've had weeks where I've had to do like 3 or 4 on certain losses. No, I think this is a trend with Ireland. I think they've won a Six Nations, and I will not take that away from them. But Ireland won a Six Nations when the gap between the top two and the rest was never bigger. And I think that is a caveat to put in there. They went down to South Africa at the end of a long tour. I don't care if people find this controversial. I don't really rate the summer tour last year because it was an 11-month season. I don't really take much stock in it. The games looked like they were at the end of a really long season. Ireland looked like a team who are starting to age out in certain positions. They have obvious flaws, the set piece being one of them, a very obvious flaw there. There is a power issue in the team, and it's not that numbers, you could stack up the numbers. There mightn't be a huge difference between the two sides. But ultimately, if Wallace Satiti is winning every battle against his opposite man, and Ardy Savea and Sam Kane, and well, I think Van der Fleer played better than Kane, but anyways, and the second rows and the front rows,
I think
that's where the power
Sam
battle
Kane
is going to tell.
Sam Kane is not a popular pick amongst All Blacks fans. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I mean, he played all right, but Josh Van der Fleer was probably the best player in green on the night. But I think Josh Van der Fleer playing best player in green almost comes from a part of Josh plays well when players don't, because of his role, because he's just kind of everywhere. Caelan Doris did not have a very good game. Joe McCarthy had a poor game. James Ryan tackled everything that moved, but doesn't offer a lot going forward. Obviously, the set piece, you have the stats there. 60% scrum win. I think that's strange. I think like it depends on which one you get, but anyways, the 70% line out is exactly what's there everywhere, which is just not good enough. Like ultimately, the stat that you want to be hitting is 85 to 89% to have a good line out at international level. Not even the best, just good, just kind of like the standard. Ireland have not hit that in a while. They were 100% in their first two games in 2024. I think they've averaged something around 75 since then.
You're always worried,
there's an
aren't
issue
you?
with
At an
scheme.
Islands line out, you're always thinking, is this going to go wrong?
And the Rob Herring one was like, no disrespect to Rob Herring. He's a great hooker. He's a great thrower. That was, if you remember it looked like Ireland were the team defending the lineout. Just went straight to New Zealand. Ireland never got off the ground.
You have to be careful of line-out stats as well, because you can win a line-out, but a line-out still have gone wrong. So you can, if it's like a bit of an overthrow and it's kind of, if it's off like the fingertips and then it's bobbled and then it bounces and then someone grabs it, that's a one line out, but it's also undeniably gone wrong. So line out stats aren't the best to focus on. I thought the Beelum actually did quite well when he came back on. I was really worried.
He was starting to tire. I think those the Ofa Tuangafasi Philly Beelum penalty on the hour mark, the scrum penalty that kind of swung the momentum firmly into New Zealand's favour, is controversial here, but it's one of those. I remember someone saying to me off, like it's a tongue-in-cheek remark, but like the 16 players in the scrum and half of them are cheating at any given time. It's kind of one of those. What referee what picture does the referee see first? He sees Beelum's hip swing out. He could have been like Tuangafasi. Like he's burrowing in as well. The two of them they're both coming in like an arrowhead. And yes, Beelum did well against Tamada Williams, who has the power, just needs to stay up. He just flops sometimes to the ground. But it's a concern for Ireland, I think. And I know you are high on Xander Ferguson, which is fair. He's a good player. But I still think Tadhg Furlong is by far the best tight head in Northern Hemisphere. Not that he's doing the silky footwork or the long skip passes anymore as much as he used to. It's just his all-round impact around the park. It's hitting rucks, it's defensive stops, it's pressures on nines, on tens, it's the scrum solidity. Even his lifting is better than who then say Beelum or McCarthy, who would be primary lifters for Ireland. His lifting is better than theirs. The gap between him and the rest is quite large at the moment. I think we've seen it, but Beelum still played well. I think you can say both things because Furlong is that good. It's kind of like when Porter comes off, you can say Porter played very, very well for 76 minutes, but ultimately no one is going to be as good when they come on. That's why he has to go as long as he does, as well as that. So I think there are issues. Am I being negative? Possibly. Like, I understand people might say that, but at the same time, like every Ireland loss in the last year has been of the same regard. Power battle, stopping primary carriers, winning a couple of key one-on-one battles, be it at 9 or 10, at 8, at front row, whatever it might be, line out not functioning. And ultimately, you can't you can't give the same excuse because you can't afford to be at 70%, which in some ways is a very ironic line-out stat because I think that's all Ireland were at on the night, about 70%. New Zealand maybe 75, but that's 75. They deserved a 10-point win, and I'm
Yeah.
not overly surprised that they did get that result, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, the stat that jumped out to me was 59 rucks for Ireland in the whole game. That's so un-Ireland. That's not how Ireland want to play the game. And I think the it was raining, wasn't it? Or it was greasy, at least to begin with.
It was raining for about an hour, 50 minutes to an hour. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that kind of they say rain is the great equalizer, and I think you said to me yesterday on another well, I don't know if it was on another pod or just generally chatting that you felt if it was dry, New Zealand would have scored more. I kind of think almost the opposite. I think that it raining kind of forced their game plan to be the game plan that would have beaten Ireland, which is they needed to target the scrum,
Fair.
which Tyrell Lomax for me is the best tight head in the world at the moment. And I think that a lot of South Africans would agree with that, even though Frans Malherbe has been doing fantastic things. And so they've had a great scrum all year. They've been able to target England and they got the better of them using that as well. And then DMAC, the thing with DMAC is he's always trying to make a miracle happen. He's always trying to score the best try ever. But if it's raining, he can't. So he didn't try. And I think that kind of helped. It just it swung that psychological thing. I mean, I was asking the question of when did New Zealand last win a game of rugby without scoring a try? Now they got one in the end, but it seems they were happy to win without scoring one. And that for me was a big mindset shift from the All Blacks in this game.
I think that some of that is Ireland missed 30 tackles, which is too high. Just plain up. That's too high.
Tackle stats don't mean anything.
But Ireland's I get that, but New Zealand only missed 14. And that's a big discrepancy.
You conceded one try each.
Yes, and I get that. But Ireland's scramble defence was really, really good. I think Ireland's frontline defence was poor.
Jameson Gibson-Park's defence was unbelievable.
Yeah, which is ironic because the tagline that used to be used by Luke McGrath back in the day was, "Oh, he's like the best defensive scrum half in the world." No one really knew what it meant. Gibson Park actually gave that type of performance. Like he was really confrontational with his tackle. It was really cool to see. We never see it from him. Again, brace bald. I think that's what it is. But anyways, I'm losing track of myself. I think for Ireland, like their defense was fine, and I accept that point. Maybe Mackenzie forces it on a different night, but still, Mackenzie had a very mature performance at 10. I thought when they brought on Roigard, he was exactly what they needed when he came on. Wallace Atiti,
Roigard was a big step up on wrestling.
Breakthrough player of the year, Wallace Atiti. Just give it to him. It's not an award I really care much about.
He made his Super Rugby debut this year, not just his test
that's
debut.
Incredible,
that's crazy.
And that's man.
If
that's
you don't mind,
ago, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, I'll kind of end the Ireland chat here. This is where I think Ireland fans are getting really, really frustrated because in the last 2 years, Ireland have handed out 8 new caps. New Zealand have handed out 8 this year, and ultimately, it's not that the players are playing a bad standard of league. We know that they're all playing very high standard. It's the fact that goalposts have been moved to break in. Calvin Ash got in because of injury. Jack Crowley got in because of retirement. Mike Lowry got in because of injury when he won his cap. Robert Balogun got in because of injury when he won his cap. James Hume had to beat the door down. Joe McCarthy didn't beat the door down as much. I think second was just an issue where we had no power. Ollie Yeager got in and got his cap because of injury. Same with Tom Stewart. Same with a lot of players, but they're getting maybe one cap. But it's just not the squad needs to evolve. I think we're starting to see it from Ireland. Ian Henderson is a great servant, a great, great servant. But I think they need something else there. I think they need a Cormac Izuchukwu. I think Conor Murray is a great servant. They need someone else.
Izuchukwu's the only one who's come. You kind of knew was always going to get in. Was the only one that felt like it's succession planning that he would, from the moment that you saw him play for the under-20s, he's going to play for the senior team. Which is
fine. And I just look at the success the under-20s have had, but the success the EuroC teams are having, we're seeing Jamie Osborne's another good example of players who kind of got in because there's a couple of injuries there. Hugo Keane went off to the Olympics and things like that, and he finally won his debut. But Jamie Osborne played a Champions Cup final before he won an Ireland Cup. I'm not saying that's right or wrong. I'm just saying that doesn't happen in other countries. Like Chupovoy won his first New Zealand cap 2 years ago when he was raw, but they want to just get him in for a block, see what he was like, give him some work ons, bring him back to Super Rugby. We don't do that here. We want everyone to be polished, to be ready. And I think it's leading to a frustration in Ireland. Maybe not from people who are listening to this podcast, maybe not, but from people who I'm talking to, there is a frustration from pundits as well. I think if Ireland won't make changes this weekend, it's just not going to happen. But I think Izachuk was someone we want to see. We will see a new prop. It'll probably be Tom Clarkson because Tom O'Toole suffered a head knock, and I wish him the best with his recovery on that one. I think people want to see a new hooker in there because Herring and Heffernan are a combined age of 67, if I'm right. I could be wrong. Maybe 68. Maybe I'm being generous. They're past their prime years. They want to see a Ryan Baird. They want to see an Alex Kendellen. They want to see a Craig Casey. Some people want to see Sam Prendergast. Some don't. Some want to stick with the same two, which is fine. He's barely played some top end games, so that's fair enough. They want to see Osborne. They want to see Nash. And I think it's just this sense of like, when are Ireland going to move on from the win now cycle? Because ultimately, we now have 3 games where Argentina could take Ireland because they are playing really, really well. Australia, I think if they weren't without like a couple of players based in France for that game against Ireland, they would give themselves a better chance. Fiji are going to be high in confidence, and it's going to be a sticky game, as we discussed, Hugh. It'll be a really sticky game. It's just, I'm not saying Andy Farrell's under pressure. He's the furthest thing from under pressure. It's just at the stage now where it's like, let's see the squad. If we're going to lose, let's lose with an Osborne on the field, a Kendellen on the field, a Cormac Izachukwu on the field, as opposed to lads who we know what they can do, but it's almost that kind of like worse loss, which I know that's awfully harsh, but it's kind of the fan mentality of it all.
It goes back to the second best fullback in Ireland is an injured Hugo Keenan. Yeah. And it kind of feels like that across the board at the moment. Like God knows what you'd do if James Lowe got injured. I can't see how he would get injured because he seems to be made out of.
But even at that, like, it's not always the case, but it's the case within Ireland camp. Jacob Stockdale is playing really, really well. Anywhere else, they'd have maybe not given him this game, but he would 100% be nailed on to be starting this weekend because he's playing really well. Give him a chance to win down that jersey. But it just doesn't seem to happen.
But it's like that. It's like that all over the place. The drop between the main guy and the next guy everywhere just seems to be huge.
Is it in every position? That's where I come back to it. I think the standard in Ireland is better than we give the players credit for in certain positions. Granted, we're without our starting hookers, one of the best in the world. So obviously there's going to be like a drop off somewhere, and there it is. But I just look at the squad and I think it's time to regenerate. That being said, I did not disagree with the selection when it was made, because Irish teams are set up to get in front, stay in front, and see it out from there. That's still fine. I still think if we had, Baird and Craig Casey and someone else on the bench, still could have won from a winning position. I'm still confident about that. That's kind of the way I see it. But Ireland did kind of lose because they couldn't stay in front of New Zealand. They couldn't get that string of momentum. The stat that stood out to me was Jack Crowley did not touch the ball on consecutive phases in the game. He's your 10. People will blame the 10. If you do, you've no idea how rugby works because there's so many moving parts between any two phases. But that's a sign Ireland never got going, ever. Gibson Park didn't get going. Brilliant on the defensive side of the ball, had some poor moments on attack. Jack Crowley never got going. Bundyaki never got going. Caelan Doris didn't get going. Ultimately, you're never going to win a game when your midfield just isn't as big of a factor, especially Ireland. Especially Ireland. How often have we seen Ireland produce a great performance and Caelan Doris and Gibson Park are 10 out of 10? Do you know what I mean? And this is the inverse of it. They were 6 or 7 out of 10 and Ireland were as well.
Yeah. Ben, did you have any extra thoughts on this game?
No, I didn't get to watch it because I was elsewhere on Friday night, so I couldn't get to watch it at all. I think I was just a little bit surprised by.
You're as well off. It wasn't a great game.
I really liked it. I thought it was still really high quality. I'm a bit boring now with rugby, where I don't like high scoring games. I like low scoring games. I thought it was still very high quality. I thought it was two teams cancelling each other out. I still think that Ireland were good. I thought when Ireland scored their try, I thought that was very like peak Ireland of they took they
Very much
took
so.
the moment they were
That
like,
Van
we
der Fleer
score
line
now.
is peak
Yeah.
Ireland. Yeah.
But it was
Like
so
we've seen that Van der Fleer
relaxed.
line from so many players.
It was so relaxed the way that they were doing it. It wasn't rushed. It wasn't frantic. It wasn't head loss anything. It was just kind of pass, pass, pass. We know we're going to score. Just keep going until we do score, and then they scored. And there was almost like no celebration of it. It was like, yeah, this is what we planned to do, and we did it. Well done, everybody. So I did enjoy the game. I thought it was a real test. I thought it was a real arm wrestle, and it was full of intrigue for me.
There was some chat about the atmosphere, wasn't there?
Can I
People
ask a
were not happy
question?
with the atmosphere.
The atmosphere, it's not good. It's not looking good. Look, rugby has an issue with financials, and we've talked about this on this podcast. So it has to charge high money for top tier internationals. One of the top tier internationals at the slate, but at €140 a ticket, what do we expect? Like you can't have it everywhere. And like I hate to say it, I hate to be that guy, but we just can't have it every way. We can't look at rugby being a financial peril, especially when the RFU are hoping to have 4 professional women's teams in the next 5 years. You just can't have it every way. But just a final point, and it's not related to the Ireland game specifically. So listeners will be delighted to know that. The new law kicking variation. Oh my God, I keep getting it wrong. The new law variation around kicking and screens and blockers. Ben, I want to ask you specifically because you were at a game. What did you think of it?
It's an interesting one. So you're on about the guard can't stand in front of the box kicker. So
Yeah.
Ben White got into trouble for this yesterday because he was told to use it. Ebenezer came through. The first couple of times Ebenezer came through, then realised he had to retreat because he was offside because Christoph Ridley was happy at the time. And then a third time Ebenezer did it and then retreated. Ben White was then penalised and scrum was given to South Africa because he took too long to take to use it on from the call. It's interesting. I think there does need to be more pressure on the box kicker because I think it was seen as maybe a too easy a way out for the defensive side inside the 22 to clear to touch, get up to halfway. I think it does make scrum halves have to be a bit more clever with the kicking. Whether they actually start amending their technique to shape the box kick but don't box kick, I think you're starting to see a little bit of that now. So maybe it's just trying to encourage a bit of variation in the defensive play of a 22 when they are at the base of a ruck or back of a scrum. So yeah, I don't mind it.
Knock-on effect for me.
What do you think
I think
that is?
there's with all of this, the knock-on effect is like I think we've now overpowered the kick chase. Is the only thing with like no screens because there's some great contests. Don't get me wrong, some great aerial contests. It's really cool to see. But I just from the games I've seen so far, and I haven't seen them all, I think we may have gone too far and overpowered the kick chase for fear of the DuPont law, which some people hated it. I had no problem with the DuPont law. I had none. I understand why people hated it, but I don't know. I think
I think we're going to see why it
they're going to have to
existed.
keep working on.
I think we're going to see why it existed because they will with your whole team being on side, maybe it will lead to more counterattacks, but it will just lead to more kicks in the first place. If they are trying to get rid of kicks, I think all these law changes that they brought in with the access and things just incentivizes teams to kick more. Like we're seeing Fiji now initiate kicking battles.
Apart from the one time where they should have kicked the ball, which was so peak Fiji.
Yeah.
Can we talk about that game? Because I think two of us would prefer it.
We'll come to it in a minute. So just before we do that, if you've gotten this far into the podcast, you're clearly enjoying it. So if you could give us a like, a subscribe, if you're listening on the audio format, if you could give us a rating, if you could share a link with a friend, that would be awesome. That's what really helps us grow. We're trying to hit the 1,000 subscriber mark on YouTube. We're on 870, 875, somewhere amongst there at the moment. So if you could subscribe, get us to that 1,000, it would allow us then to monetize the channel. And then it wouldn't essentially cost us money to make it. We'd break even. So we appreciate it in advance for you helping us reach that goal. And like I said, tell a friend. Okay, then. Before we get into the Wales-Fiji game, the other URC nation that we need to talk about is Italy. We predicted that they would lose to Argentina. I don't think we predicted that they would lose by that much.
It wasn't great, was it?
Error strewn. Lewis Liner will not look back on that game with happy memories, which is a shame because I do quite like him. But Liner had a stinker, to be fair.
It was one of those nights for Italy, and I think your point about Italy that you made last week, that Edmonton aren't in great form, is that going to seep in? I think we've seen that in the second half. I think they got a point when it got to like, I think it was 30 or 31-18 or something like that, and it's like momentum's gone, and you could just feel the heads dropping or see them or whatever.
It was a bit like old Italy, wasn't it?
It was. That was the vibe I got, and like, I will hold my hand up. I only seen bits of this. It was kind of on in the corner at work, but there was that old Italy vibe of like the heads were dropped, and like there's the Canone tackle, and there was just a 10-minute period there where nothing went their way. Like the kind of, you can nearly say 15 minutes either side of halftime where nothing kind of went their way. I just felt like, okay, this is going to go the other way. And Argentina racking up 50 points is a surprise. Don't get me wrong. Like, it is a surprise, but they also did kind of deserve it. And from an Irish perspective, I am kind of scared of them, but we'll get onto that later.
How many missed tackles were there? I'm going to guess. I'm going to say 30 at least missed tackles.
I'm on the wrong page.
I haven't looked at the stats. This is an educated guess based on what I saw.
Let's find out. Right,
this is suspenseful.
I'm going to say at least 30. I've got a feeling it's going to be high.
Again, this is not great for the audio listeners. Hugh is looking for the stats.
I'm vamping. They got sucked in to Argentina's game plan. They really just let Argentina play the game they wanted to play, which is sevens, basically. Tackles missed 38.
Jeez.
Oh, well, there we go.
Argentina missed 35.
Which is might be good for. I know tackle stats don't miss tackle stats don't need a lot, but 38 is a lot. Like, both things can be true. 38 is a lot.
What's the percentage? Hang on. What's the percentage? Percentage is defense
75,
79. Less than 80. Less than 80 is low.
Can you just scroll down there? Their kick to pass was 1.7.
Argentina kicked 36 times. The most attacking teams kick the most.
Yeah, it did look like Italy were starting to force it there for a few minutes, and you can kind of see that with like their kick to pass ratio, that they are trying to force it. I think that's been their big issue for a number of years now, where it's almost like, we know we've got good backs. We finally have this backline that can click. It's like, sometimes you do need to take pressure. Menachano was good, yeah, he was.
But he's just class good. Anyway.
Brex had an okay game, a decent game. Ruxpy is actually really good. Wow.
Yeah, well, both teams got Argentina got over 2 passes per ruck for people who don't count rucks for fun like I do. That's a lot. So anything more than like 1.5-ish passes per ruck.
Yeah, about 1.6, give or take.
Yeah, so, but like to be north of 2 is like you're just throwing the ball around. And like I said, Italy just got sucked into playing Argentina's preferred game plan of Jouet. Juan Cruz Malia, one of the best players in the world at the moment for me.
The way he stepped Liner was incredible.
Yeah,
Liner, he did get a bit cocky though, didn't he? He did get cocky because Liner nearly got him back.
He did, yeah. He was across the line, and Liner wasn't finished coming for him. Yeah. I'm having a shocker here. Come on.
While we're waiting for that to load, games being played in football stadiums in Italy is really cool to see. They're in Juventus this week.
Yeah.
They was in Udinese. They're in Juventus in 2 weeks, I think, actually. They're in Udinese this time. I think that's cool because there is also the talks of, potentially Zebra moving out of Parma. So maybe there's something there, I mean, they're not going to go in and sell out Turin, like Juventus Stadium in Turin or anything like that. But like, it is cool to see. It's one thing I love to see from internationals is when the games are moved around. I'd love to see Scotland and Hampden. I'd love to see England outside of Twickenham, Ireland outside of Dublin.
England is the weird one from that point of view of the country, a nation that could move around but don't. But then, if you look at New Zealand, they move around a lot, but they do have test matches when there's quote unquote only 30,000 people there.
Yeah, which would be very low by our standards.
Yeah. Come on, where is
when
this?
They get to Dunedin, isn't it? I think you didn't get 30,000 at Forsyth Bar. Yeah, that would make sense because they can't use Christchurch anymore because Jade Stadium was unfortunately demolished from those nasty earthquakes, and the replacement is the Rugby League Park, which has got 15,000, I think, for Crusaders games. Don't get much more than that. So, yeah, I think it's interesting what you say about England. I think they could go somewhere else just for a couple of games.
Yeah, Old Trafford in Manchester or something.
But it's Rugby League territory, isn't it? And
there's the step.
Kind of reserved for that.
Yeah.
We've all had one of those in our lifetime, being the guy sliding across. Poor Lewis Lina. It wasn't his day.
Yeah, 50 points is disappointing, very disappointing. There was moments where the classic assumed a mistake had been made, and then everyone stopped playing, and then one team didn't stop playing and scored a try, and then the
Yeah, it
TMO
was a
referral
knock on,
confirms
wasn't
that
it?
there was no knock on.
No, knock on.
So just 50 points is a lot. It is like old Italy. Their heads dropped. They realized they'd lost. They started falling off tackles. Just we thought they were past this, and exactly what I was saying earlier, that Benetton are having a bad season, and there's 21 Benetton players in this Italy squad. I think there might be an element of complacency in there from the players that know they're going to get picked. Here's another Argentina try that I'm showing. It's
So the
just
only non-Benetton players were what we Garbisi and Capuozzo, was it?
yeah, he went off injured early as well,
Jetty.
which is a shame because he's been on fire for Toulouse.
Yeah.
Garbisi is one of those players. Each of us on this pod have got a few of them. Garbisi is one of those players for me where I don't see the hype. I know that a lot of people.
I've got a lot of those.
A lot of people.
Is he at Montpellier now? Is that right?
Yes.
Montpellier?
No. He's at Toulon now.
Yeah.
Yeah. He moved
Toulon,
surprisingly. Yeah. He just got rung up one day and got told you're moving to Toulon. But yeah, for me, I feel like I've always just rated Thomas Llewellyn higher. I've got to be honest. Garbisi, in my opinion, blows hot and cold during games. He can have a moment of magic, and he can go missing, or he'll just do something where you're thinking, what were you trying to do there? Does anybody disagree?
Oh no. I see what you mean. I'm higher on Garbisi than you are, but I don't disagree with the point that he can be hot and cold. He has moments. The only thing is, it's like, well, he's young. It's like, well, he's 24, but he's been playing test rugby since he was 20. So it's just so hard to judge. At least his coach has never come out and said, I brought on the wrong player.
Right. Is it time
I just thought it was right there.
So Hugh, yeah. 10 losses in a row. Warren Gatland. Is this a recipe for disaster? Where do we go next as a Welsh fan?
Last week I said the vibes are bad. The vibes have gotten worse. The vibes have gotten worse.
That's possible.
So they thought you found the bottom, but there's still a bit more further down to go, isn't there?
We've opened the trap door, and there's a lot more bottom down here than we thought there was.
There's a dread of infamy off that post-game press conference from Gatland. He was almost, oh, it's fine. Like, as if the Chiefs had just lost to the Crusaders by 2 points at home back when he was there. No, you've just lost Fiji at home for the first time. It was not a game Wales deserved to win, even though they could have won it, don't get me wrong, but I don't think they'd have deserved to win it on the basis of 80 minutes. But it's like, I think it's just, I don't want to speak for anyone because I'm not in Wales and I'm coming from a very Irish angle. I don't care about the Brian Driscoll thing before anyone says anything. I do not care. But like, it's just a case of like confidence is really running out in Gatland. And I don't care. Like, if you want him sacked, fair enough. If you want him to stay, fair enough. That's everyone's own opinion. But like, it does feel like the confidence is just running out at this stage.
Yeah, massively. The players are not buying into. Well, no, I can't speak for the players. It doesn't feel like the players really believe in what they're being asked to do, and where do I even start with this? At least the 15 that he picked made sense. He picked players in positions that they play in for their clubs, which was a big step forward. The selection for this game makes a mockery of everything that was done in the summer against Australia. Like, I think the only player who survived was Ben Thomas, and he's playing in a different position. Other than that, it's a completely different backline.
Mad.
No, I was
kind of surprised to see Anscombe back in there, and I love Gareth Anscombe. He's a great player.
I wasn't surprised because Gatland's always loved Anscombe. Anscombe is one of Gatland's pet projects and always has been. He's got the cohesion with Thomas Williams together at Gloucester, and then the backline was basically a Cardiff backline. I know they didn't all play for Cardiff at the same time, but they've all come through Cardiff. They've all been coached by Cardiff coaches. So there was a level of cohesion there, sort of like Ben Thomas, Max Llewellyn, Mason Grady, all came through the Cardiff Academy more or less at the same time, can win it as well. So there's all that cohesion there. So I wasn't against that. I was completely fine with that. Archie Griffin at tight heads, I've got nothing personally against the guy. He's great around the field. He shouldn't be playing Test rugby. He's second or third choice for Bath. There are tight heads in Wales who are playing better for their clubs at the moment. Archie Griffin could go on to be massively successful for Wales, and I hope he is. Shouldn't be playing, at least he shouldn't be starting Test matches for Wales at this point in his career. It's too early for him. Will Rowlands had a poor game. I feel like I'm just going to go through the team now. Will Rowlands had a poor game. He's a class player, but he just wasn't at it this weekend. Tommy Reffel, a lot of people are asking because he's he gets a lot of Hollywood turnovers, and then the English commentator goes, "Oh, that's Leicester's Tommy Reffel, by the way. You can watch him on TNT." Blah 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 blah. But we need to see players offering more than that. See, and that's kind of where Wales are with a lot of the players at the moment. Is like, oh, he's good at one thing. Like the thing with Owen Watkin was, oh, his defense is really good. It's like, well, what else can he do? And you got Adam Beard of like, oh, his line out calling is really good. All right, what else does he do? And now Tommy Reffel is his jackling is really good. All right, what else can he do? There needs to be an expectation now in 2024 of if you're a test level player, you have multiple strings to your bow. Look at the Springboks, and Wales's players just don't have that at the moment. I do think that the backline, as initially selected, did work. Where they had Ben Thomas, who I agree with Gatland is the best back in Wales at the moment, playing in his natural position as that second playmaker. It's absolutely worked. And then they had Max Llewellyn, who's a massive lump, coming in on the crash ball 12 line, off line outs if that's what the plan wanted to do. Cool, great. Answer. What happens when Joe Roberts comes back, who is nothing like Max Llewellyn at all, and is a out and out pedigree thoroughbred outside centre, who looked like he was the plan? He's not going to do crash ball lines. So does that mean we're going to get Ben Thomas to do them? Does that mean we're going to bring Mason Grady off his wing? Does that mean we're going to pick someone else at 12? Don't know. And then there was the whole thing with the 6-2. Now, a lot of people are blaming just the 6-2 as a concept for this. And like, oh, this is the problem with the 6-2. It's not the 6-2's fault. It's not the 6-2's fault. I like a 6-2, and I think that Wales should pick a 6-2 because everyone in Wales, all anybody talks about is we've got loads of back rowers. We've got so many back rowers in Wales. Like, cool. So let's have an extra back row on the bench and sacrifice a back if that's what our area of strength is. No problem with it at all. I'm an advocate of the 6-2. Problem is, if you're going to pick a 6-2, the man who wears 23 needs to be a utility back. Like, this is like 101 stuff. Gatland.
You want to explain that for people who didn't see it or hear about the whole change, like in detail?
So Gatland in the starting 15 picked Gareth Anscombe at 10 and Ben Thomas at 12. Ben Thomas can cover 10. He played 10 against Australia in the summer. You've also got Thomas Williams, who in the case of an emergency, if 2 10s go off injured, Thomas Williams can function at 10. You've also got Blair Murray, who according to his agent can play 10, although no one's ever seen him play 10, and he himself says that he's a fullback, but apparently can cover 10. So you've got 4 players in the starting lineup who, according to who you ask, can cover 10. Gatland then picks another 10 on the bench in Sam Costello. Sam Costello, my favourite player, everybody knows Sam Costello is my favourite player. His positional versatility is 0. He is a fly half and nothing else. I've never even seen him play fullback. There is a clip of him filling in at scrum half for the Wales under-18s for 20 minutes of a game once. That's the only positional variance anyone has ever seen from Sam Costello. He is a fly half and nothing else. He was asked to play on the wing for Wales against Fiji for 40 plus minutes until Anscombe was taken off and Costello was moved into 10. Now, that was totally unnecessary. And Gatland has come out in the press conference after the game and said, oh, Ellis Bevan was supposed to go on. It was a cock up on the catering front. The wrong player has run on. I don't know what happened. How the wrong player gets substituted on in an international test match, I have no idea. I don't know whether the team manager, what I assume must have happened is the team manager has gone, a winger's gone off. That means we need to get the 23 sub on. And they've forgotten that the 23 sub is a fly half, not someone else. So that must be what's happened there. Or it's complete bollocks. And Sam Costello.
It reminds me of the Nick Faldo moment at the Ryder Cup when he had his four balls pairs or foursome pairs, and he said, "Oh, that's the sandwich or the lunch list," and it was like, "Oh, we
Yeah.
know you, we know that's a load of bollocks, mate." And I think I feel like that was a Gatland Faldo moment.
Very
Because
It
similar
felt like a load
vibes.
of bollocks to him.
the giveaway is they could have reorganized it. Anscombe has played fullback at test level, can win it. I can't say I've ever seen him play on the wing, but you would think he's a better wing option than Sam Costello. So put
Yeah.
Costello to 10, Anscombe to 15, win it on the wing. I know that's moving 3 players around, but that's the risk of a 6-2. That's just what you have to do. But they didn't do that. Not only did they not do that adjustment during the game itself, they had half time and then they came out and carried on playing with Costello on the wing. And what happens
Seems so amateurish, doesn't it?
for Tuisova's try, they targeted Costello. And Makela gets on the outside, or Mangala gets on the outside of Llewellyn. Sam, you can see he's panicking. He's doing his best. Sam Costello is a brilliant defender, by the way, in the 10 channel, not on the wing, because he's never played on the wing, so he doesn't know what to do there. And apparently, according to Lauren Jenkins, Sam Costello was turning around to the bench at points and throwing his hands in the air, going, "What are we doing? Why have you put me in this position?" So for Tuisova's try, Makela gets to Costello, puts Naithalevu onto Costello's outside shoulder. He does a great effort, gets around his legs. Naithalevu is like twice the size of Sam Costello, like twice the size of him. So just goes through him like he's not there. Gets the offload back to Mangala. Fair play to Jack Morgan, has done an incredible effort to get off the flank of the scrum to get back to do the covering tackle. Stops Mangala just short, but the ball gets to Tuisova, and Tuisova's basically unplayable one-on-one. You're not going to stop him, and actually ends up going through 2 players. Avoidable is just the word that comes to mind.
There's
Avoidable
another
situation.
game where, although it falls out of our remit, where a 10 was where they probably shouldn't have been on Saturday and, lost the game because of that. Where again, it just seems there's certain coaches that are too rigid at the moment and aren't really thinking about flexibility and whether, I know I can say it, Borthwick is in the same category as Gatland, I don't know, but it does seem to be there's an inane amount of banal rigidity to certain coaching styles where they're not able to think on the fly or they're not delegating tasks to their coaching team who are on the sideline to be able to make calls that are the right calls. And I think that's the concern, I think. And
no,
yeah,
what,
it
what I
must be
will
very
say,
frustrating.
what I will say is that the back line did work because Wales scored a lovely first phase move off this in this game, which it reminded me of a try we scored against New Zealand a few years ago. Then Cam Winnett got a try that was disallowed, where it was just it was pure Warren ball. In the first half, we were pure Warren ball, like textbook. Go off the maul, milk the penalty, go through the phases, milk another penalty, kick to the corner, maul it again, milk some more penalties, spin it wide and score a try. It is Warren ball. We're still doing that. Cam Winnett's try that was disallowed, playing off 9, lovely. Thomas Williams pulling the strings, fantastic. Got disallowed for the Tommy Raphael high shot. And then when Costello goes to 10, he works with Ben Thomas for the final Ellis Bevan try amazingly well. They dovetail perfectly. They work together. They coordinate. They call the shapes. Sam's in charge, but they're utilizing Ben Thomas's skills. Fantastic, it works. So I would say, personally, for the next game, I would say start Sam at 10, have Anscombe on the bench, because proof is there, it works. I just don't know if I can trust Gatland to keep it the same because he's changed it so fundamentally from the summer. So, and you question, does Rio Dyer come back in from the pack? The issue with the back line and the pack is just carriers. Like with Mason Grady being injured, apparently he was left the ground in a boot. The only big back that we have now is Max Llewellyn. He's the only big player that we have in the back line. And in modern rugby, you need tall backs, you need heights. The back three that we ended the game against Fiji against wasn't tall enough, which is so fundamental. But it's it's boring analysis, but it's true. We need taller players in that back line. The pack doesn't carry hard enough, unfortunately, and it hasn't done since the Six Nations, even with different players. So it's just kind of the same old problems, really. The attack did look a bit better. That's all I can say. But found a way to lose. I mean, from Fiji's point of view, I didn't even think that was the best I've ever seen Fiji play. I thought Fiji's phase play against Scotland was better, to be honest. In this game, they kind of brought all their rock stars back, and then they were like, okay, the plan is get the ball in the hands of the really, really, really good players. So it was really unstructured at times. I did think that both Fijian halfbacks, Lamani and Muntz, both had excellent games. I thought Lamani, that's the best game I've seen him play. Muntz, by a long way, the best game that I've seen him play. Absolutely phenomenal. And then the pack did a job. They won a couple of scrums against the head, etc. So yeah, where do Wales go from here? I'd like to see Gatland be a bit more humble. I'd like to. It's all very well saying like, "Oh, I'm happy for people to blame me so long as they're not blaming the players." That's so performative in the press conference. Like, actually take some responsibility. I'd like to see him eat some humble pie. I'd like to see him change.
Too late.
You think?
I think he's too set in his ways now. I think you see it. You see certain generations where they're at their peak, and then the sport moves on, and you're not able to keep up with it. And I think maybe Gatland's fallen into that category now. You see it, yeah. I think it left Fozzie behind at the All Blacks. I think Steve Hansen, where he left at the right time. Graham Henry before that. I think I think they were kind of a bit more sort of humble about it's now time for me to step away from international rugby. And I think Gatland might be outstaying his welcome at the top table. I think it's time for something different.
I think he's made it pretty clear he's not going anywhere. I don't know,
Yeah.
Caleb, you called the end of this game. Any takes as a neutral?
I did only catch kind of the end of it, but I think it's positive for Fiji that they got over the line. I know we're a USC podcast, but we all have a slight grow for Fiji, so we can say
Everybody
that
does,
too.
don't they? Yeah.
Happy for them that they got over the line. It was a huge result for them. Just kick the ball out at the end, lads. You don't need to run it.
I thought we'd see the first ever incident of a player tackling one of his own teammates. I thought like Naithalevu was going to tackle Kuravoli, just
to make him knock it on,
running.
Yeah.
Just on that, and maybe this gives Hugh a chance to get in and get one of those handoffs in, for our YouTube viewers. But there was just so there's a power difference between Wales and Fiji now. Fiji always carried with power, they always carried with pace, they always had that. But there was a sizable difference between the two, especially in the outside channels. And I think there were moments where it did feel like Wales were just at a hiding to nothing. The Tuisova try is a prime example. He could have went straight. He probably scores if he goes straight, but he doesn't have to. It was just almost easy. And look, I don't blame the Welsh players. I really don't. I don't think that all the issues to this point is on them.
This isn't even the one that I was looking for. I was looking for the Tuisova one, and it's brought up. Found another one of Naithalevu just ending Anscombe.
Yeah,
great hit.
There was one. Was it?
There you go.
Costello gets hit, and here we go. Here's Tuisova.
He doesn't even look at him. He doesn't even look at him.
To be fair, he does it to a scrum half. That's context enough.
Thomas Williams's tackling technique has had criticism in the past. He does like to go high. What were you saying there, Kaylin, mate?
I was just saying the Costello got absolutely thumped. I think it was in the build-up to one of the Wales tries. He gets absolutely thumped but gets the pass away.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, but that is one of those plans. I'm going to do a video on it later. Ben Thomas was stood behind him, so it's one of those that's a race. It was like, I know you're going to hit me. The question is, can I get the ball away fast enough? And he did, and he created the try.
Yeah, and to be fair, he did really well. But Tuisova, not even getting a start at 12 for Racing, and he's just dominating this one. Amazing how that happens.
The physicality difference, when I talk about the size of the backs, the differential was just unbelievable. They could not cope with their physicality. The Fiji's ability to ride contact and take contact on their terms, get hit and stay stood up, unbelievable. They literally only went down on the ground when they chose that they wanted to go down on the ground. That's a bit scary, really, from a Wales fan point of view. I know that Fiji have got freakish athletes, but just could not physically compete against them. The maul went well. I guess we can say that the maul went well.
Just really quickly, because I know we're short on time. How many Northern Hemisphere wins, not counting Romania and Portugal and teams like that? How many Northern Hemisphere wins do we think we get this weekend?
Are we doing predictions? I think we should count South Africa as Northern Hemisphere. I've got to be honest.
Fair.
URC team.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah,
like
what
the
if we
way that
just
they're
do
claiming like, oh
URC
yeah,
then?
we're Fiji's mates. When was the last time South Africa even played Fiji? They're not your friends, South Africa. They're not one of you.
I
You left Super Rugby before they arrived.
Yeah.
I did not root for a single Northern Hemisphere team this weekend. Like, sorry, I rooted for Italy, but I didn't really see that game, so it doesn't really count. I didn't root for England. I didn't root for Wales. I didn't root for Scotland. Sorry, lads. So I'm just saying. Colombia is against Bezier. There we go. There's the big fixture of the weekend.
Yeah. All right. So Ireland against Argentina. Let's quickly run these ones. Kaylin, what's your prediction?
Heart says Ireland, head says not by a lot.
Ben?
I'd agree with that. Yeah, Caelan. Yeah, spot on.
Yeah,
Quote.
I think a nervy win for Ireland. Oh my goodness, there's so many games. I can't even
Please,
find
can we
it.
do Netherlands against Chile?
I can't even find the next one. USA Tonga. That was an interesting game.
Oh,
England
we missed
against South Africa.
Scotland,
Oh no, that
Portugal.
is one of them. Sorry, what? Oh, sorry,
Scotland,
I missed the
Portugal.
Scotland one. Scotland, Portugal.
Scotland.
Scotland comfortably.
Portugal.
Yeah. Get out.
Romania, Canada. No, these are good games. I love rugby. England against South Africa.
South Africa by 21. I think they're going to
England
batter
always managed
England.
to find if South Africa play like they played against Argentina in the Rugby Championship, they'll blow them away. England have a habit of being able to make a game out of it against South Africa.
That's the thing.
I don't
I was
know.
going to say England, but I think England lose one score games. They don't win them. That's the bit that's kind of holding me back.
That
Okay.
Australia, that game on Saturday is going to really hurt, I think, because of how they conceded defeat. I think their last 15 minutes. This is the thing. I think England are weaker than Scotland. England will be weaker than Scotland were yesterday with the South African bomb squad coming in. And I think
They
that'll
have
be their
injuries as
trouble.
well. England
Yeah.
do. I know it's not our remit. I'm going to go France over New Zealand.
Yeah.
We're not
It's just
doing that
something-
one.
But it's the game of the weekend. It is the
Yeah.
neutrals game of the weekend without a URC tint, I think. That's the game
I think New Zealand are
going
going
to
to.
make time for.
I think New Zealand are going to walk it. I don't think France is the real deal anymore. Italy against Georgia. Now, right? Okay,
Yeah.
let's just
Italy.
all the hipsters, right? Italy are going to win this easily. I'm sorry. I know that Georgia are very popular, and I know that a lot of people have got a lot of time for Georgia and things. Georgia lost 13 points to 31 at, I think it was at home, to the All Blacks 15 at the weekend. I'm very sorry. Like, if you look at Georgia's World Cup record, not good at all. I think Italy should comfortably beat Georgia. Georgia did beat Italy in Georgia a couple of years ago. That looks very much like a peak that they're not at anymore, I'm afraid. In Italy, I think Italy will be comfortable. And then Wales against Australia. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Australia by 12 or 13. I think they'll be high in confidence. And there is one thing about Joe Schmidt teams is usually when they start to look like they've clicked, that's usually their benchmark then from there.
They
So I
stay clicked.
think they stay clicked. And I think Wales, it's quite the opposite. I think Wales looked like they found something last year. Now it looks entirely gone.
Yeah.
Suaalii is the key for the Wallabies. I think his performance against England on Saturday was one of the best debuts I've seen in quite some time for someone who switched codes. And I think he's going to kick on. And he's, in that 12 shirt. Very impressive. Very impressive.
Yeah. I don't know. I did feel a bit like the English press had never seen an offload before in the last couple of weeks, because I don't think either of the try assists from Australia's offloads were particularly amazing. Yeah, I think they were in Super Rugby. I think they were pretty run of the mill. I've got to be honest.
Even Nicky Towns at the end, do you think was
Yeah,
fairly?
I think
interesting.
if you asked him, he'd say he was always comfortable. He was always comfortable. That whole interaction was always on his terms. He was
The
always on the
best
front
part
foot.
of that play was the forward that passed out the back. That's what
Yeah, I
scored
can't
that
remember his
try.
name.
Yeah, that's what scored the try. We talked about it on Saturday. I was on the train going home up to Berwick to obviously the Scotland game on the next day, and it was that forward. I don't think that was planned, that forward pass. I think that's him's just thought on the fly that the backs are on here, and he's flicked it out because it didn't look
That's
like he was set to do
keep
it.
ball alive. Like that's what that was. Just keep.
But it was
And like the thing is, they were only down by 2.
I think it was cool from Donaldson.
They just needed to get a fucking milk a penalty or
I
something.
thought they were setting for a drop. Honestly,
yeah. That's what it looked like.
No one fell into the pocket, did they? So I think, maybe just the pocket wasn't available, and then that forward just thought if he's heard a call out the back, or whatever the call would have been, it wouldn't obviously be that telegraphed, but he seems to have changed his position at the last moment because it nearly went wrong. It very nearly went wrong, and that's sometimes what the passes happen with that margin of error is so narrow, and he managed to execute it. But it's opened up, and then I think that was the last rock, wasn't it? I think it was straight through the hands. Ikitau's obviously offload, and then Jorgensen on the wing. But yeah, it was fantastic try. And I enjoyed the Australian win. To be fair,
I agree with. I agree. I enjoyed it as well. I agree with you, Caelan. I think that once the Aussies have their tails up, I think they're going to stay with their tails up because I don't think. How many games did they win in the Rugby Championship? 1, and it was that scrappy win over Argentina in the pouring rain. I don't think that was really, they would have taken that much confidence from that, especially given what happened a week later. Whereas I think this is the one where they're going to go, it worked. And I think they're going to stay clicked. And Australia have always had a hoodoo over Wales. I know we had a brief spell up to 2019 where we were beating them repeatedly. And I think even Pivac got a win over them. But yeah, I think it's a different time now. Anyway, that brings us to an end of this episode of the United Rugby Rewind. Thank you so much to everybody for watching and listening. And like I said, if you could give us a like, a subscribe, help us get to that 1,000 subscriber mark on YouTube, and share a link with a friend, we'd be much appreciated of that. So cheers to the lads. We'll hopefully be back to a full crew with our South African voice next week, which we know is so vital to everything that we do here. Shout out Alan. And enjoy your week. Speak to you same time next Monday. Cheers.
Cheers, chaps.
That was the United Rugby Rewind. Please rate, review and share us on socials if you can, and join us next week for more of the same. And until then, enjoy your rugby.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.